Okay. And so I think that we should be good on that front. And so I'll get started with the presentation if that's okay, Ms. Whitaker. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the presentation. My name is Samuel Wilkes. I'm a part-time student and PhD candidate in the Learning Sciences program at Clemson, and I am NCGrowth SmartUp Analyst at UNC Kenan-Flagler. And today I'm going to be talking about some work that I've been able to do this semester with Freedom Air's Field Ready Training Academy. So to get started, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of the project background. I'm going to go into a little bit about myself, into Freedom Air, and into Field Ready Training Academy, before moving into a little more specifics about some of the changes that we're able to make this year, some of the challenges and limitations that we faced, and then some of the more observational recommendations that I made kind of thinking about moving forward, before finishing up with some time for questions and comments at the end of the presentation. And so, as I said, my name is Samuel Wilkes. I'm a part-time student and PhD candidate at Clemson in the Learning Sciences program. Before entering grad school, I received my bachelor's degree in English from Clemson. And in my research, I primarily study the psychosomatic effects of underrepresentation upon people of color, specifically minority faculty in predominantly white institutions. For the past 2 years, I've worked with NCGrowth SmartUp as an analyst, with the majority of my projects involving implementing learning management systems or redeveloping curriculum. In this project, I had the privilege of working with Freedom Air Heating and Air Conditioning, which is a family-owned and operated HVAC company in the Low Country region of South Carolina. And so they're primarily serving Bluffton, Hampton, and some of those surrounding areas. But in addition to the HVAC services, they also are recognized by the state as the eligible training provider. And so they offer an extensive training program that's dedicated towards equipping community members with the skills necessary to obtain gainful employment in HVAC. And so in this project, my responsibility primarily was to help redesign and bring some functionality to that Moodle platform that they have. Getting some feedback, but I think that we're good now. And so, yes, in this project, my responsibility, as I said, was to help redesign and bring some functionality to the online learning management system that they had in order to support their training endeavors. And so I primarily broke the work that I've been able to do this semester down into 4 categories. They were rebranding from Freedom Air to Field Ready Training Academy, reformatting the course slides, integrating some content authoring software, and then trying to go in and optimize the instructional experience. And so the most apparent change to the LMS that Freedom Air used from last semester to this semester was with rebranding to the Field Ready Training Academy aesthetic. And so part of the reasoning for doing that was to give the training platform its own identity for interested contractors and participants, that involve, putting the mission statement on the home page, putting some contact information there, allowing people to understand what the goals and objectives of the program were and how to get in contact. And so at this stage of the project, I primarily did web and graphic design work to retool that homepage, the login page, and the student portal. And so, I was creating and editing graphics, doing some custom HTML and CSS work, etc. And then, as I said, the last thing that I did was include the mission statement on the homepage to help re-envision the more sort of development-oriented training program that Freedom Air has. Next, I went in and reformatted the course slides. And so this was done for both aesthetic and functional reasons. In the training program, there are approximately 6 course units that range from HVAC 4000 to HVAC 4600. And there are around, I believe, 20 to 25 PowerPoint presentations altogether. And so in order to kind of match the overall rebranded aesthetic of Field Ready Training Academy, I went in, I created new theming for the PowerPoints. That includes, the PowerPoint title slides, that includes the icons used throughout the PowerPoints, and then the backgrounds for each PowerPoint slide. And I went in and I removed all of those previous instances of the old Freedom Air theming. Additionally, I worked to increase the functionality of the PowerPoints. And so previously, the very large file size of each presentation made it very inhibitive to download the files easily and to be able to easily update and customize them. And so I went in and converted everything to a digital format that can be viewed and edited entirely online without having to download to make those changes. And so that was just done with the intention of making everything a little easier to upkeep. And so on the image on the slide at the left, you'll see one of those PowerPoint presentations. And this is what I call a live presentation. And so on the training portal, you could actually go through this embedded link and use it much in the same way that you would use a traditional PowerPoint slide. Next, I just went into the system and I went into the system and I installed some content authoring software called H5P. And so this is one of the very new additions to the learning platform. But what this software does is it allows you to create quizzes, tests, and other interactive activities in a very streamlined fashion. And so I created around 5 of these activities on the learning platform that students could use at their leisure. You see one on the left of the screen right now. And what it is just like a true false type activity that students can go in, look at some of the course material and decide whether or not the prompt they're receiving is true or false. I also created a word find activity that I recall that includes some of the terminology from the PowerPoints that students can go in and remember. And then I additionally included some discussion question type activities as well. And so the most beneficial thing about this inclusion of H5P is that it's cross-platform. So regardless of whatever learning management system or web system we're using, be that Moodle, be that WordPress, be that Joomla, whatever, these activities can be used on all of those platforms. Additionally, they're downloadable. So in the circumstance that you need to take them offline, that's a possibility as well. And additionally, the interface to create these activities is drag and drop. So it's very user-friendly in that respect as well. Next, the next sort of biggest task that I worked on was trying to kind of go in and improve the instructional experience of the software by streamlining some of the more complex tasks. And so previously I talked about updating the PowerPoints and trying to make those easier. But I additionally included some custom hyperlinks that you can see in the right image that, just tries to attempt to make it a little easier for instructors to locate the courses, some of the course materials that they were using, etc. As well as I created a tentative attendance form to kind of streamline some of those issues with tracking and managing attendance as well. But these sort of improvements also indirectly kind of lead to some of the limitations that we observed uh, this semester as well. And so I organized those limitations here into two primary categories, upkeep and user friendliness. And then I further subdivided those into three little bullet points that we can kind of talk about at a very high level. And so, in terms of upkeep, one of the first issues that I kind of noticed with the learning management system was that it just has a very involved update process. And so, unlike other content management systems like WordPress or Joomla, which have automatic update procedures, Moodle instead involves an update procedure where you have to have a little bit of web administration knowledge to be successful with it. And so essentially, you have to download the update files from the internet and upload them over the old files. And if you don't have that previous experience, it can be a little complicated. And so commonly what this leads to is the software not being updated. And, obviously that can create some issues with software deprecation or security or site breakage. And so it's important for us just to kind of get the standard operating procedures down to make sure that we're updating at a consistent rate. And the next thing that I noticed was just kind of the precarious hosting situation that we have. And so right now, Freedom Air is doesn't have direct control of the LMS's web space. And so at numerous points, this has kind of involved the site going down and crashing. And so what I want to do as an instructional designer is kind of move us to a point where we can control everything without the need of having a sort of middleman in place to resolve some of the problems that we were facing. And then lastly, as I kind of alluded to a little earlier, Moodle just has a complicated settings interface, which can lead with some of the issues that we're facing with attendance or managing users. And it can create that reliance on external software to solve some of those problems. And so previously you saw me kind of use a Google form, for instance, to collect attendance right now. And so eventually I want to move us to that point where we can do everything within software as opposed to having to use some of those external software solutions. And so from looking at those limitations, I kind of went down for three recommendations in order to kind of move Freedom Air forward with Field Ready Training Academy to make the learning management system more efficient and more effective for our training endeavors. And so firstly, the biggest thing is just making sure that Freedom Air owns and controls the server that the learning management system sits on. The second is to prioritize user friendliness in whatever platform we use. As an instructional designer, I want to ensure that I put Freedom Air in a position where they're empowered to use the software once I'm gone, and so to make it as easy as possible for them. And then thirdly, just, reconsidering the scope of the learning platform. Do we want it to be a repository, or do we want it to be something that allows us to flip the classroom and be more inquiry based for the students? And so kind of reiterating, the first thing is solidifying that operational independence. And so it's imperative to ensure that Freedom Air owns and operates the learning management system's web space. And so for us, the benefit is that costs are minimal. And so because the LMS is a primarily closed training platform, that means that there's no demand for high bandwidth or high processing power. Um, and so this allows Freedom Air to have relatively low cost with respect to going out and getting a shared hosting plan from some of the internet's more reliable hosting providers. And so it's anticipated that this would cost no more than $135 per year. And so, you can go to GoDaddy or Bluehost or HostGator or any of those providers and get the lowest tier plan which would provide ample power that we would need to operate the learning management system. Next, we just want to prioritize user friendliness. And so here we have two options. We can continue to use Moodle and optimize it through the creation of additional custom hyperlinks and an online knowledge base, kind of like I've started to do at this point in the project. Or at this early point, we have the option to look for more user-friendly software such as LearnDash or Elementor or what have you. And so the only disadvantage to that second option, of course, would be it would incur cost. And so whereas Moodle is free, software like LearnDash in combination with Elementor would be anticipated to cost around $200 per year. However, those costs could be offset by increasing the ease at which the site could be updated, edited, and navigated. And so those are all things to kind of consider. And then lastly, just reconsidering the scope of the learning platform. And so this involves going in and asking what we can do differently to ensure that we're not just helping students master the curriculum that they're taking, but also ensure that they're expanding beyond it. And so some of this involves flipping the classroom, like I said, and that's giving students the ability to encounter the content and the material independently inside of the learning management system before having it reinforced in the live training course that they're in. And so that pretty much sums up everything that I had with respect to what I wanted to introduce for the project. And so now I'm going to just open up for any comments or questions that anyone may have. And I'll start with you, Aaron, or Cindy, to kind of get your thoughts, and then we can branch out from there. I think you're muted. Yes, I can
hear me now. Okay, yeah. So I started with this class at the beginning of January, and seeing the updates that you made, 100% more smoother than what I'm used to. I'm able to navigate through the slides a lot better. The students are actually able to navigate those slides while they're with me, and some of them have also given reports saying that they're learning a whole lot better from home as well, based off the content that we're explaining in the class. So very seamless. The user-friendly aspect is definitely taking effect here. So I appreciate that.
Definitely. Thank you.
Cindy, is there anything you'd like to add? So we have a couple of folks on the call, and not sure if anyone has some questions, but we can open it up for comments, suggestions, feedback. If you'd like to do that, please go ahead.
Sure. My name is Ken Harvin. I'm with South Carolina Association for Community Economic Development out of Charleston, and we were just given an invite to kind of sit in and listen to what you guys are doing. We have a upcoming conversation with I think Mr. Little next week.
Yes.
So I was just kind of get a preview of what you guys are doing, so I'll be a little more informed in that upcoming meeting. So, but thank you for sharing. Well put together, well presentation. What I caught a little bit kind of 10 minutes in, and so I was kind of grasping what you were saying, kind of catch up, and I really appreciate you walking us through that. I guess some modifications you're making to some software, as I understand it, from walking in late. But really
absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Harvin. I really appreciate your attending, and I look forward to meeting with you guys. He's in Bernie Mazeek's office out of Charleston. Yes, some of you might know Mr. Mazeek.
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Is there anyone else on the call? We did have Jesse Risher, but I think he may have hopped off. Is there anyone else that'd like to give comments or feedback? While we're waiting on that, I just wanted to thank Cindy and Aaron. They've been so gracious to allow us to work with them for the last couple of years. They were actually one of our first clients. And we've definitely made some evolutions on a lot of different levels. And I think we've all learned a lot in terms of how to move forward with these types of projects. And I'm so thankful that we've been able to allow them to pivot, especially with the pandemic. There's so many different opportunities out there now for workforce development to improve their training environment so that they can include more people, engage more people, and just expand that program. And I'm not sure if you want to speak briefly to that, Aaron or Cindy, in terms of how this software is actually helping to expand your work in workforce development.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, in the trade of HVAC, of course, you have to learn the actual trade, but there's some communication skill sets that technicians need to have. And we take in all walks of life, different learning styles. What Sam has did is able to convert all that information for those different learning styles to attain the information. You got some folks that get in class, we can put them in the field. We even touched into a virtual reality, but you got some folks that would rather, you know, be able to go home and do some type of home study. So that way, when they come into the lab, they can regurgitate that information and nobody's left behind. I mean, that's the advantage that I've seen. You know, with the different learning styles, we have all types of just different ways for them to attain that information and be able to practice it. You know, just on a result standpoint, we kind of measured it. We had 17 guys that went through our program that are actually working for contractors, and we're getting good feedback. They're actually being productive for the contractor. So it's awesome. I'm excited to keep enhancing what we got going here. And I mean, I can see that we can help a whole lot of contractors in this industry. Wonderful. So thank you, Sam. And like I said, we're just excited to see what's next.
And I'm not sure if Sam touched on this as much, but I enjoy watching Aaron's Facebook posts because he's constantly talking about the innovation that he has and how he is experimenting. And just last night, he had one of his technicians using a virtual reality headset, and he talked a little bit about how he was going to hopefully incorporate virtual reality into this training environment. And I know that's something that we're definitely would love to be involved in. And I don't know, you know, if we can continue to get some more funding to continue to work with you guys, you know, we'll grow right along with you.
Yes, we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for participating in our presentation. We had one this morning with Sweetgrass Roots Learning Farm, and today, of course, was Freedom Air HVAC. And this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we'll be having a final presentation with Bowman Vineyards. And next week, we'll have Peculiar Pig Farm, which is a Ways Woodlot pig farm that's in Dorchester County. And then we also have, what else do we have? We also have Tucker Adult Daycare. And that might be it. I think that's the last one. Oh, I'm sorry. And Hamilton, SS Hamilton for Tree Farm in Green Pond. So we have 3 more presentations next week, and we have one this afternoon. So if anyone does not have links to those and want to attend, please reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you get those. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and you guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you, everyone.